I'm joined today with Daryl Robinson. My name's Ryan O'Sullivan, and on today's podcast is more of a question than an answer. If we get straight into it, let's go back to the very beginning where all this started, and obviously the topic of conversation for people that are watching is sobriety. So am I right in saying you are 907 days sober?
I don't know. It's over 900. I know that. So, yeah, it's over 900. I don't really count it much, to be honest, anymore. I do obviously know when the milestones are coming up, but I don't tend to count it anymore because I feel like that's a chapter that I've dealt with already. But yeah, I'm around that. I know that the 1,000 days is going to be in May sometime. So that's only. I think that's the last one to count, though, isn't it? Once I get past 1,000.
Yeah.
I feel like that's done. But I wanted to do this because I get a lot of questions about it all the time. So some people will say to me, I go on about it too much, and I probably did in the beginning because it's all relevant to me.
Just to go back a little bit, so 907 days, my guess was because on Instagram the other day you put 900, right?
Yeah.
So naturally you got bombarded with questions by males, females, people that want to stop drinking or whatever from both the people and their partners, right?
Yeah.
So if we go back to the very beginning, how this started, what was it that made you decide you wanted to be a new version of yourself?
So I'd already been doing a lot of stuff anyway, like personal development and things, and the drink and the drugs was probably the thing that was standing in the way most. I think after everything that I'd been doing, that was the thing that always, for whether it was the weight or business or anything, that's the thing that always made me step back. So I kept trying to stop, and I was thinking, that's what I want to do. I want to stop, but then I always just get sucked back in. So I always ended up back into drinking. And then, like, the last time that I had a drink, I think it was just the last time too many. So I'd stopped a few times. Because everyone always says to me, how did you actually manage to finally stop? Like, I've done 3 months or 4 months or 5 months. And I don't think they realised I did that too. I didn't just go, I'm stopping drinking now, and then, hey presto, it was done.
So how many times did it take you?
I don't know a number, but I definitely said it. I mean, everybody says it, right? Once you've had a drink, the next day everyone's like, I'm never drinking again. And it just sort of, I managed to do a very
common thing that happens, right?
Yeah, and everybody says that, right? So that's what happened. I don't know how many times I tried, but I know I did a few months here and there.
Yeah.
And then I eventually, this time was different, I suppose.
So a few questions, if you don't mind me asking you, and I think it might be a bit like you, a Q&A question answer thing, just so we can get right into it. And also for people that are watching, that have messaged Daryl, at least you then get, I don't know, an hour to just get everything, not off your chest, because obviously you're not doing that because of that, but I know a lot of the reason why you are doing what you're doing is because you want to help others and pass on, your knowledge.
That's the reason I wanted to do this today is because I haven't physically got time to answer all of these questions, and people have reached out to me for help. And there's a lot of people that say I'm just going on about it all the time, but a lot of other people have asked me in private like some questions, so I'd like to answer them, and then I can just give the video out. So
cool, sounds good, man. So let's start with this then. How bad was the problem?
When I get this question, right, I always try and determine what bad is, because I wasn't somebody that drank every day or took drugs every day. That wasn't what my issue was. But every time I did go out, I was excessive, and I'm like that in every aspect of life.
All or nothing.
I'm always excessive, and what that means is when I did go out, I didn't go home, and I just always wanted to carry on. So, okay, it might have been happening once a week, but it was over the course of 2 or 3 days. And then when I did do that, it was bad. And then, but other times I could go 2 or 3 weeks without having a drink. So it's not like I was an alcoholic as such, but I did have a problem with drinking drugs. So it was bad because I couldn't stop that. And as soon as I started drinking, then drugs were always involved. So that's what scared me most. It's not really a drinking problem, but I knew if I didn't stop drinking, then drugs would always be something that happened.
So how old are you now?
34.
34. That happens with age, doesn't it? Even me, man, I'm like 38 next month, and I'm like, still, when people ask me, I always think I'm 35. I think that's a COVID thing, though, because we kind of missed out on a few years, right? So one of the questions I had for you was, what made you slide so far into it in the first place?
Stress with work, I would say. I think a lot of the time, because I was spending so much time at work trying to make things happen, it felt like at the time I always remember thinking that was my only time I was relaxed, when I go out and have a drink, and then you just forget about everything and enjoy your time with your mates and things like that. And that's what I thought was helping at the time. And it's not until I've obviously now come out the other side of that, like I realised that I was probably making that worse. But it did feel like that's the only time I was enjoying myself, because everything else at home and at work was stress. And when I was in the pub and doing what I wanted to do, there wasn't any stress. But that obviously made everything else harder, because then work become harder and family life was harder. So obviously what's happening is you're then going out to have a drink, you're taking drugs, it's putting you off the next day, and then work gets harder. So then you're spiraling again, and then the next thing you want to do is go to the pub again. So I think that's what kind of led it. It's basically just stress and environment. Like the environment I was in, that's what everybody did. Like if you've had a good day, you go for a beer. If you had a bad day, you go for a beer. So I think it's a combination of stress and then just like instinct of my environment. That's how I grew up. So
it's nice to hear, you talking so openly about it. Next question, if you don't mind, then, right? Was discipline not being able to have a few drinks and stop?
Yeah. So somebody asked me this recently. It was on my story.
So these questions, right? I know obviously a lot of people have asked you lots of questions.
Yeah.
Was that question that one of your followers?
Yeah, this is a question. So almost everything I want to talk about today is a question that I've got. And they're questions I get asked all the time. And I just think that people deserve an answer. So this is one that comes up quite a lot. Like, because I would say, so people say to me, how have you got so much discipline to do 2 years off the drink or 900 days off the drink? And I haven't got the discipline. I don't think that's what it is. So people think, why can't you just have a couple and then stop? So for me, I haven't got any discipline. I haven't got discipline with weight. I haven't got discipline with drinking. I haven't got that. I have to change the environment to stop that happening. And that's what I did at the beginning, is the discipline. I don't know if you can even call it discipline, but I hit it before it comes. So like realising the triggers. So when I'm having a bad day and I want to go and have a drink, I was realising it then and doing something about it before I get in the pub. That's like, I suppose,
being proactive and not reactive.
Exactly. So I don't think you need discipline for that, because if I walked into a pub at that time, I would have had a drink. So I don't think that it was discipline. I think, like you say, I think it was just being proactive and putting stuff in place. It's the same, like I say, with the weight. Like I wouldn't, if you go into the cafe, you're going to have a breakfast. So like, I'll just stay away from that.
Yeah, and again, it's like probably figuring out the solution before, before the problem turns up.
That's what it is. You need to realise in the triggers of what them things are and then put other stuff in place to do that rather than, so I was going to the gym a lot on a Friday. So like, I didn't have to go to the pub. So I still don't think, I have now, I haven't got discipline now, but I don't drink now when I go to the pub. But it's not because of discipline, it's because I've figured out that I don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's like, I suppose, you now probably know in what direction to take your journey, right? What you're basically saying, from what I gather, is you know who or what to stay away from, so you can keep yourself on the right track in what destination you want to head towards, right?
Yeah. So I've had a few people ask me before, this is kind of similar question, is how do I stop drinking indoors? And the only answer I ever give is to not have beer indoors. Because if you go home after a hard day and there's beers in the fridge, you're probably going to drink one of them. So it's not...
What do they say? It's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, so it's changing your environment. So rather than trying to test yourself to see whether you can go home and have beers in the fridge and not have one, you've had a hard day, get rid of them. Make that decision when you haven't had a hard day. And then when you have had a hard day and you come home and there's no beers in the fridge, you've then got to go out, get beers, come back. And I think the extra effort that requires might be enough to stop you doing it. So it's more like changing your environment to it than trying to put yourself in a position of not doing that.
Yeah, I suppose it's like changing your routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if the drink's not in the fridge, you can't drink it, right?
Yeah. And I think, going back onto the gym a little bit, it's probably a bit like that. Obviously, to get the best out of the gym, you kind of need to know what routine works for you, Good answer, mate. Can I mark you out of 10 for your answers?
You just do it. He's going to cut it one out. That's fine. What did I get?
Oh, you got 10 out of 10, mate.
Can I mark you for the way you answer?
Yeah, you can. I'll leave you to the jokes. We established that last time, yeah? The wake-up call, right? We've kind of touched on that, and I feel like the wake-up call maybe was the fact you said you wouldn't go home. Was that the only wake-up call? Was there a specific scenario that may or may not have happened that you went, do you know what, mate? We got to have a look at ourselves.
Yeah, so obviously there was a massive strain in the relationship because that's not what she signed up for. Do you know what I mean? We've got kids together, and me staying out and being stupid still when I'm 30, 31, I don't want to stop 32, something like that. That's obviously, it was not fair to her. So there was a time. So we had we didn't have a Christmas work do with the guys. I can't remember if that was COVID or not, but there was a reason we didn't have a Christmas work do. It was either COVID or a skin, I can't remember. But it was one of them things. So I did a summer works do. Got to like June, July, it was in August actually, I know when it was now because it's the date. And I said to the boys, we'll all go out and we'll have a summer beer. Did that, went into Clapham. had drinks, come back to Sutton.
Daytime
It
drinking?
started in the
or-
daytime, yeah. So we went out early. A couple of the boys lived far away, so I got them a hotel. They had a hotel in Sutton, and then we came back to Sutton. We was all drinking. I hadn't actually had a drink for a while. My brother was there. He didn't really drink that much, and things just got out of hand. And we had a fight. Well, I wasn't even involved in the fight in the first place. Some of the boys are younger than me, so there was a fight in the high street in Sutton. I don't even know what happened at the beginning, but we ended up all getting in this fight. Got all the boys back to the hotel to try and drag them back to stop them getting arrested. It just, you know what it's like on a night out. Everything just went, just went. And I remember being in the hotel room with them and just looking around. They're all younger than me as well, so I understand it. But I was looking around and I thought, I don't want a part of this anymore. And I was still, at the time, I've been drinking, so that was quite a big thing for me at the time of drinking. I was like looking around, I thought like some of them got covered in blood, and then they were also talking about how good the night was. And for me, I was just thinking like, they almost got arrested. I could have got arrested. I've got a baby coming. She was pregnant at the time with my youngest, and I was just like, I remember just thinking, I'm done with this.
I think kids change everything, don't
I've
they?
I've got 3 kids. I've got one on the way now, and every single time I was having it, like when I first had my first child, I started my own business. And then the second child, what did I do for this? Oh, we moved into a house and I took on a new contract. It was a big thing at the time. And then the third child, I stopped drinking. So just before the baby's born, each time I've always done like a big moment.
Change, yeah.
And it's happening again now, to be fair. She's pregnant now and I'm like, I'm going to be a comedian. So it's just...
Do you know what I call it? I call it the movement, right? And very similar things have happened with me. And I feel like, when... I suppose you have a significant scenario in your life, it makes you step up, doesn't it? It puts responsibility.
I've always said
on your shoulders.
with my missus, they do like nesting. You know what I mean? They get ready. Like, they're worrying about
nesting
is called, isn't it? So they start getting the house ready for the baby.
Who does this? Did you say mums?
Mums when they're pregnant. That's what so it's called nesting. We found this out last time.
This.
Yeah, so it's like getting everything ready for the baby. So they make sure that everything at home's ready. And I think for me, or I don't want to speak for all men, but I'm assuming that that's the case for a lot of people. It's like I'm trying to make sure that everything else is ready on what I call my side of things. So,
which is maybe you thinking you're probably saying you want to go and be the provider.
Yeah, exactly. So so that was the sort of catalyst for it for me. I was like, right, I'm actually done now. This is it. And obviously I said this to her because I can't remember now if it was late. It was like 3 to 7 in the morning. I don't know exactly when. And her mum had been staying with her little brother and things like that. And I walked in a mess.
And your mother-in-law was there?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
Jesus,
she'd been staying. So I walked in a mess, and went into the bedroom, and then she left and went to her mum's. And I was like, obviously the next day...
And I suppose you needed to have a nap or sleep.
Yeah, so the next day I was gone. I don't even remember anything about the next day. But the day after that, I just had a new contract that we was taking on. Nothing was sorted because we went out on the Friday. Everything just went to complete and utter chaos. And I remember I texted her and I was like, look, I'm done. And she was obviously like, yeah, whatever, you said that loads of times. This is it now. I've had enough. We're having a baby. You can't be acting like this. And I was doing the same thing as I always do. It's like, no, it's going to change. It's going to change. But it's weird. This time I kind of believed it. Even though before I sort of knew like that's what I wanted to do. This time I was like, I've had a realisation. And this is what I wanted to do.
You've walked the walk and not just talk the talk.
Yeah, so what I actually did, this just reminded me, sorry.
It's all right, mate.
Is I remember thinking, if I could feel like this the whole time, I would never drink again. And then because I'd done a lot of mindset stuff before, I was like, okay, so this is a mindset that I'm in now. So how can I create that so that I'm always in that mindset? So I've been sitting there and I was thinking, right, all I'm thinking about now is all of the things that have happened, like her mum being there, me leaving, the business having issues because of obviously me not being active, and there was a new client. My brother weren't in because we'd been out the night before. And I was like, all of these things I was thinking of, I was like, well, I'm just going to write them all down. So I put them all I got my phone out, got notes out, and I wrote down all of the things that I was worried about, I had anxiety about, and had happened because of that one night out. And I wrote them all down. I'd done it for like half an hour. And there was loads of stuff in there. And I was like, right, I'm going to make myself a promise. And the next time I want to have a drink, I have to read this entire note first. And I was just hoping that by me doing that, I would read through all of the things. I'm actually getting goosebumps about it now because it was making me, at the time, it was giving me a lot of anxiety. So I thought I'll read through this whole list, and then if I still want to have a drink, I can have it. That's the only promise I'm going to make. So that's what I did.
Sorry to interrupt you, right? I went to meet a man yesterday, very, very, very successful guy, and he said to people, who does a to-do list, right? And everyone put their hand up. And he said, who does a not to-do list? And I feel like this is really weird that, this was yesterday, and you're basically saying that was like a not to-do list in a way, because that then made you not do probably what you felt like doing?
What I wanted it to be is something to put me in the frame of mind where I didn't want to have a drink. So it was just a reminder for me. This is what happened last time you had a drink. Read it. And I was brutal in there as well. Like the way I was talking to myself, I wrote it in a way like, this is what you did. This is what it's caused. This is what's going to happen if you don't sort it out. Like as a little bit of a sort of pep talk. And I just said to myself, I won't have a drink again unless I read this first. And I didn't open that note until I was a year sober. And I actually only opened it because I wanted to do a post. So at the time when I hit a year, I'd done a post and I actually shared the whole list to show people what I'd written and stuff like that. And just the thought of that, even now, thinking about opening that note still makes me feel sick because of how I was at the time. And I think that was very helpful because it put me, you know, like it comes around and it's like Wednesday, I'm not going to have a drink. And then you get around to Thursday and then by the time Friday comes around, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go out again. That stopped that because I was like, oh, if I want to go. And that was just a promise I made to myself and I just kept it. I mean, I could have not kept it. I could have just said, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go out and not read it. But it was just a promise I made to myself at the time and I kept it and it worked.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's kind of the opposite of what some people would do. Like, you know, you psych yourself up for something. That list is kind of psyched yourself down from doing that, right? So you've got some great questions here. So stick to the questions. You said you didn't try to give up drink or drugs first time, right? How many times before do you know? Or
I don't know. I don't know a time before. So I gave up drugs before I stopped drinking. But that's what scared me because all of the times. So I gave up drugs, and then there was a few times that it had still happened, and they was always when I was drinking. And I knew that if I was sober, I would never go back to the drugs. And it was the drugs that kept me out. It was the drugs that kept me wanting to stay out. It kept me wanting to continue. So I failed. I don't know, to be honest. I don't know how many times I failed. I know that it just wasn't a case of like one and done. It was just something that switched differently this time. And I think you have to be, so you can have all the information in the world and even what I've got now, I know how to do it, but I think you also have to be at a point in your life when that change is ready to happen. Because for me, I was having a baby and the business was going
well. You just like literally took what I was going to say out of my mouth, right? And what I was going to ask was obviously, were you a worse dad to the kids because of it? But I think that's
a 1,000,000%.
Yeah, quite an obvious.
So it got progressively better. So my eldest, I don't remember because
your eldest is how old?
11.
So your eldest must notice.
Yeah, she would have. She would have. Yeah.
Would she know what's going on?
I don't know. She obviously knows. She would definitely notice. I see. The thing is, I don't
you go walking with her.
Yeah,
often, right?
Yeah. So we do a lot of stuff now. What I wouldn't have done before. And I wouldn't. The thing is, I'm not saying that I was a bad dad because I didn't feel like I was a bad dad. I was still present. But compared to me now.
Your energy levels are more now.
I'm not saying that I was a bad dad before, and I wouldn't have said that at the time. But when I look back now, and this isn't a judgment on other people, but I would, if a Friday or Saturday come round, I would have chose to go out to the pub than spend time with her. Now, I don't say that's making me a bad dad, but now I wouldn't do that. So I'm now more present and I've got more energy and I've got more knowledge and I'm more driven, which is rubbing off on them now because now that's what they're seeing. They're seeing me do this stuff, which is just a more of a positive influence. So,
but listen, like each to their own, right? You know, you're not preaching to people to do this, that, and the other. You're just expressing your story.
And sorry to interrupt you, but I get quite passionate about that bit because when people say that to me all the time, like, stop telling me what to, I'm not, like, if anybody's watching this and they don't want to stop drinking, then just don't watch it because this isn't what I'm trying to do. And this is why I wanted to do it in this way, because I want people that do want to be helped to be able to see this stuff from me, because that's how I stopped. I saw other people on podcasts and I see what they did and I was interested in it. And if you're not, you're not. But there is a lot of people out there.
Yeah, listen, everyone's got their own opinion and everyone's entitled to it. And like you say, you know, they can take it or leave it, whatever. Do you know what I mean? If they're watching it for that. If they're not, they might watch it because they really like you as a comedian, and that's that, isn't it? And
no, it is. It just a lot of things don't bother me, but that always bothers me because I'm like, it's not for you. I'm trying to help the people that want to be helped, and there's a lot of people that won't reach out and ask for help. What will watch the podcast or will watch like little clips of videos because I wouldn't have done that. But I can go onto YouTube or I can go onto Spotify and listen to a podcast and not tell anybody about it. And then if that's the thing that changes people's opinion or piques an interest, then that's why I want to do it. Yeah,
no, fair enough, man. So going on to the next question then, did you lose touch with your mates?
Yeah, and family, 100%. Because I think we spoke earlier about environment. that's what I had done. Because I was somebody that wanted to go out, I wanted to stay out till 5 a.m. I wanted to be in the places that you could do that. I surrounded myself with people that allowed me to do that because I needed friends to do that with. So that's the environment that I surrounded myself in. This environment I grew up in. So that's
so you grew up. Sorry to interrupt, mate. Again, me and you do it to each other a lot, right? So let's stop saying sorry. Let's just stop saying sorry about it, right? So the question was, did you lose touch with your mates?
Yeah.
And you were like, and my family, right?
Yeah.
So was that a family thing then? You'd all go out and have a drink and that?
Yeah, and it still is now. And I still do that with my dad and my uncles and stuff now. And that's just always, I mean, it's a massive culture thing in the country anyway, right? So that's where I spent a lot of the time with them. And when I say lose touch with family, I didn't stop talking to them, but that was like where I spent my time with them. So when I took myself out of that, because I knew I couldn't do it. Once I realised I can't actually go to the pub and not drink and not take drugs, that's where I had to just take myself out of it. And I used to go football a lot. We used to go Chelsea every weekend or every other weekend.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that. Like that's just not something. And I've only recently been able to go again, but it's just
back to football.
Yeah, only recently. And even then, I still don't go that much because with the football, it's going to sound stupid. I enjoy the football, but it's also about the entire day. Right?
Yeah,
we used to go out to the cafe in the morning, spend the whole day up.
Did you have a season ticket at Chelsea?
No, I didn't have one, but we've got like a WhatsApp group. Everyone's got tickets in there, so I could always go when I wanted to go. Yeah. And it's like a whole day event. And it just, when I didn't want to do that anymore.
Whereabouts, what cafe would you go to?
It depends where we're going, so it depends where we're meeting from. So we used to go to this brunch, we're doing advertising now, brunches in Westmead Road we used to go. George's sometimes, depends where we're going. Like sometimes we just eat in the Weatherspoons. Like
that's the best breakfast.
It's all different. Yeah,
Toby Carvery's good. Toby Carvery is good as well.
Yeah.
So go on, mate, as you were. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
So I had to take myself out of that situation, and that was probably one of the most difficult bits. Is just not being around it, and then that's when the environment comes back into it. Because I'm like, okay, I weren't focusing on what I didn't want to do. I was trying to focus on what I did want to do. So it was like, okay, I tried to put exciting things in that I was looking forward to that weren't revolving around drinking. So like, remember my missus, I was like, so we'd had the baby. I was like, right, let's book a weekend away. And one week we'd done go-karting. I was like, let's just go go-karting, me and you. So I was putting stuff in my diary that I was looking forward to doing. So I weren't thinking about the fact I wasn't drinking. So I think that's very important, is to actually don't just go, I'm not going to drink today. What are you going to do? I'm going to stay in. I'm like, no, because you're going to be sitting indoors and you're just going to be thinking about the fact that you're not out. So rather than thinking, I'm not going to do that, try and get excited about something that you are going to be. And I don't know what that is. That could be hockey. It could be going to the horse racing. It could be anything. But
something that stimulates you.
Put something there that you're excited by, because then you're going to be excited to go and do it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And do you know what? That was another question that we kind of covered there, right? Which was, when did you go back into the pub after how long were you comfortable?
Yes, I didn't actually cover that, I don't think. I did a year away from football.
Because you said recently football.
Yeah, so recently I've gone back. I've been to football a few times, I was taking the kids and stuff like that. I had to know for 100% certainty that I was comfortable around it. And I kind of weaned myself back into it. So I would go and see one friend and we'd go for something to eat and then maybe spend some hours in the pub. I would go with my missus and they'd be drinking, because I actually prefer it to be out with people that are drinking. And a lot of people probably think that's a bit weird, but for me, I want them to enjoy themselves. I don't want people to be, going out for a beer with Daryl and I can't drink. I'd rather they just enjoy it. Yeah. And I tend to have a better night if people are drinking anyway, because they're having a good time. So I just had to sort of tiptoe my way back into it. And then now I know I feel comfortable with it. And I still go out. I still go and have a great time, and then I just go home. So it's not the end of the world. I actually enjoy it.
Did you go into the pub and would it be a Diet Coke, or would it be or Coca-Cola, whatever, or would it be zeros?
I tried the Diet Coke route. It's weird. So if you're in a round and you keep having, you're not going to drink 10 to 12 Diet Cokes. Yeah. It's just not something that anybody does, and It's a really weird one, this. So if we was all in a round and I'm drinking Diet Cokes, it feels strange. Whereas if I'm drinking a non-alcoholic beer, I just feel more part of. It's a really weird thing to explain, but you just feel more part of the round.
Yeah, I get it.
And so I just started doing that, and I think that was a massive thing for me, was the amount of alcohol-free beers you can get. You can pretty much get one anywhere now. It's something that I've really used, which is strange because I never used to drink beer as much. I was more of a cider drinker, and then vodkas and gins and stuff. But it feels weird to me to drink a non-alcoholic gin because it tastes horrible. So
yeah. I don't even know they've done.
Yeah, they do. I don't know the point of it, to be honest, because it tastes exactly like gin. And I never used to like gin. I just wanted to get drunk.
Gin's a thing. Do people like the taste of gin? Do people like the taste of vodka? Or And
you must do, because there's non-alcoholic versions. But for me, it just seems weird. So I just started drinking non-alcoholic beers. But I only have 3 or 4 of them, and then I'm done. So
Do you still get a hangover with zeros though?
100%. I don't know what it is. I think it's
Chemicals.
dehydration of some description. But I felt very cheated when I found that out. I had like 6 or 7 non-alcoholic beers. Woke up the next day with a massive hangover, and I was like, "No, this is not acceptable. I've been good. Like, I think it's a combination
I've
of
been good.
Yeah, I haven't done anything. But I do think it's a combination of like sleep deprivation and dehydration and whatever else. But I say a hangover. You don't get. So I think a hangover is a combination of that, and then for me it was like a regret, a fear of like what I'd done wrong, or how I'd made myself feel, or how I'd embarrassed myself. So you
Do you
don't
know
get
what that is? So that is probably up there with one of the biggest side effects is the beer fear.
yeah, and you
Or
don't
the
get that with
cringing.
non-alcoholic because actually it's the opposite, because you're like, oh, I was actually good yesterday. I didn't embarrass, because you can remember everything, right?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't embarrass myself. I didn't annoy her because I know I'm home at the right time. No, it's true, like, isn't it? I didn't annoy her, and then I know that I've done the right thing, and I've been home at a respectable time, and it's just, for me, it really helped that.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. Do you think you'll ever go back to drinking?
I've never actually said this in like this environment, but I won't. I don't think, and I didn't want to say that before, because it felt like if I do say that and then I have a drink, it's going to be like, I knew he was going to do that. And it feels like that's like the failure thing inside me. Like that was pushing me in the beginning because people didn't believe me, and that sort of helped. And I've been against saying that, but I generally don't think now that I will, because
I think it's very nice saying that you don't think, right? Because people are people, right? We're all human.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes. And I think one of the biggest messages that, and then I don't want to step on your toes or anything, so obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the biggest things is if you fall off a horse, get back on it. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%.
If you did have a slip up or whatever, and you know, then correct it. You know what I mean? It's fine.
It's not the end of the world,
man. Exactly. It's
And
not the end of the world.
for me as well. So, like I said, the situation I've put myself in now, like with my home life, the way that my business is set up, and my relationship with the kids. If that was to change, say like, I don't know, if I split up with my missus and I weren't seeing the kids, and I was, all of a sudden I'm on my own 3 or 4 days a week, then I think that that could
go
be
back to routine again.
that could be what happened. So I think it's very important to hold on to that, because I think that is what happened.
Yeah.
Like, in the situation I'm in now, I don't think I'll ever need to drink again, because I don't need to. It's not something that I'm missing or something that I think I need to do, because I can still go and see my friends and I can still do everything else. But I think if my environment changed and I was single and I was indoors on my own without the kids and without a reason, because that's what it is, right? I've got the reason not to do it. And if that reason had changed, then there's probably a chance I would, yeah. So,
Mate, it's been very interesting. So, a few more questions, right? When I say few more questions, a few hundred more questions, right?
We've got this.
Talking business means talking money, yeah? So, how much spare money do you now have compared to when...
Absolutely nothing. Like, I have not noticed it at all. And I don't know if that's because I've invested...
Because it is expensive for a pint.
Oh,
It's
it
like
is expensive,
$7.50
yeah.
or something.
And then I'm still drinking non-alcoholics, so they're still the same price. So when I
Are
do
they?
go out, yeah, they're the same price. Doesn't change. In fact, some of them are actually more expensive.
I thought there'd be like alcohol tax or
No,
something.
so don't, because I don't want to get into that, because I'm actually very angry about it, because it's not alcohol. But it's the same price most of the time, if not more expensive. So I don't really notice it there. I think the reason I haven't noticed it is, well, one thing, because I've just never had any money anyway, so it's always just gone no matter how much is there or how much I've got. So that's one issue. And the other issue is I've invested it into myself, really. So I've done like programs to help with business. I've started training and things that I wasn't paying for before. So I think the money's kind of gone there anyway. But I mean...
So you haven't got any spare money, but you have, because you gained.
Yeah, because you've invested it.
that money, you basically just re-diverted it into something
which
that
is
you want to do.
a positive thing. So yeah. I wouldn't. No, I haven't got. Oh my God, look how much money we've got, because I'm not drinking. But I have done things like we've done holidays. I've done a sober holiday, which I called at the time, which I wouldn't now. But at the time,
Is that
it
the
was the first
video
one.
you done when you had the kids in the back?
Possibly.
When their dad was at the airport?
No, that was a different one. So that's what I'm saying. I have been on holiday since, but at the time, I went with just me and my missus that was the biggest test I had. Was me and her went away without the kids, and I didn't have a drink then, and that was the most difficult one, because in fact we got there, and the first thing that happened was she gave us 2 glasses of champagne to welcome us, and I literally thought, I've got 3 days here, I could just have a beer, and by the time we get home I'll be fine again. And that was a big test for me. So I've done stuff like that, but money wise it's just because I've got so much free time now, and I'm always just like...
So sorry to interrupt you, right? When you just said obviously you got given a champagne. One of the questions from, I think it was Instagram, right, was how did you stop yourself reaching for a drink? Mm-hmm. So let's answer that question.
Yeah. So again, I just didn't put myself in that environment. And
but you got
offered
forced,
one.
But you got forced into that environment.
Yeah. So that one with the holiday, I had to make a decision very quickly then, and I just sort of all the way there. So we didn't have a beer in the airport, which was easy because I just thought, okay, well, we won't go to Wetherspoons for breakfast. We'll go somewhere else. So that was that one done. Didn't really ever used to drink on a plane anyway because I've got a weak bladder. So if I was drinking on a plane, I used to go to the toilet all the time. So that was all fine. We got to the hotel. She gave me the drink, and I just had to make a quick decision then. And I was like, no, I'm not going to drink it. I just put it down. But then we got back to our room, and there was another bottle of champagne because we had a hot tub and things like that. So that was all there. And then I just kind of, she even said to me, if you want a drink, just have a drink.
Is that who the missus
Sorry,
said that?
Yeah, so...
Do you know what, my nan, bless her, man, whenever I used to say she'd be like, who's she? The cat's mother?
I know, you're having a go at me for it. So
that's why I'm like, her, like, right, yeah, not all women, but some women will get a bit annoyed about that,
hopefully she won't. But, so she said to me, there's a...
What's she called, by the way?
Chloe. So I don't ever say Chloe, to be honest. I don't know if she might tell me off for that. But Chloe.
Do you know what I've found, right, with my missus is I now call her mummy because the kids are doing that.
I'm not doing
that. I end up being like, mummy, can you come over here?
So Chloe said to me, if you want to have a drink, just have a drink. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not a thing whether you drink or not. It's how you are as a person when you go back.
That's lovely that she supported you.
Well, it could have been, yeah, because it could have been a thing like, no, okay, some people diet all year round and then they go on holiday and let themselves down. So it could have been that. But for me, I didn't.
So maybe she was trying to basically say, if you want to have a cheat day,
yeah, exactly that.
Then have a cheat day.
But she didn't want me to do it, and she told me that afterwards. She wanted me to make the decision because ultimately, if you tell me what to do, I'm not going to listen, and if anything, it might put me off. So she just said, "Look, it's fine. Do what you want to do." And I was like, "No, I'll leave it. We'll just get rid of it. We'll go out for dinner or whatever." And then when I woke up the next morning, there wasn't the temptation there anymore because I hadn't been directly given it. That was the big thing. But I wouldn't have been able to do that 3 months before that, I don't think. It's just because I got to the point. And you know what? This is going to sound weird, but for me, you know, like you said earlier, 907 days or whatever, if I have a beer, I have to stop counting. So when I next say to somebody I'm not drinking and like, oh, how long for? I have to say a week. Like, I can't say, oh, a week, but up to a week ago, it was 900. No one cares about that. And I know it doesn't sound like something that people should care about, but for me, just the counting alone, like, I wouldn't want to have to start again and be like, oh yeah, I'm a week sober. And I think that really helped on holiday. I was like, yeah, but if I get back next week and then I've got the thing, oh yeah, all your mates are going to be like, oh yeah, so you did have a drink. I knew you was going to do it. And it's kind of like that. So that was sort of pushing me on either, like, as well, is that I was going to be then told that I knew you couldn't do it. And for me, that really just put me in the thing. I was like, no, I'm going to...
fire in your belly.
Yeah.
So basically, if someone doubts you, it makes you want to do it more.
And then that was it. And that's like, even silly things like with my dad, he's always been supportive of it. But I know that they'd be going, no, I knew he's going to come back to drinking. And it's just like, I'm like, no, I'm actually not. So I think a combination of them things, but that's all stuff like I built up.
But like you say, I mean, with it, it's like, each to their own. People want to have a drink, have a drink. If you don't want to have a drink, don't have a drink, innit? You know what I mean?
And that's it. And that's what I try and tell people all the time. It's not like I'm preaching at people. Like, I don't care whatever people do. I couldn't care less. But what I do care about is when people ask me for advice, like, I'm really struggling with waking up in the morning. So I'm really struggling being present for the kids. Because people ask me a lot of advice because I've done all the stuff I've done.
Can I ask you a question, right? With your Instagram following, out of a percentage, would you say that the people that are more interested in what you're doing with the sobriety thing, is it more male or female?
Yeah. So my following on almost all platforms except Instagram, so on all the other platforms, it's like 95% male because you can see the insights. And then Instagram's about 60 to 40 male. But all of the engagement on all of my things is, you can't determine this because it won't tell you because it's just the metric they don't have. But it's probably 90% tradesmen. And that's how it's always been. And that's me, right? So that's why it's always gone around that, and that's what my content's around. So people are struggling with it. And like I say, people will say to me, oh, how do you get the motivation to go to the gym? Or how do you, I don't know, get the motivation to stay out of the pub and things like that? But it's the drinking. It always comes back to the drinking, because I just think if you're trying to get motivation to get up in the morning and you're drinking the day before, then that's a reason why. And if you don't want that to be the solution, then it's not really anything I can help with, because I'm saying that's what I think the solution is. That's what changed it for me. But I don't know how you get motivation to get up in the morning and have a drink, because I was never able to do that.
So what's the biggest tip that's helped you stay sober to date?
The biggest thing for me is it's got to be, I think, having a reason to stay sober. Because I think without that, everything else falls out of place for me. Like if I didn't have the relationship with the missus and with the kids and just with myself as well, like if that ever slipped, I think that would be the biggest thing that stopped me. But it's about putting stuff, I did touch on it, it's about putting stuff in place so you're ready when it happens. So I think if you haven't got, because I get this question as well, like I haven't got kids, how do I stop? Like you need to have something else, because you're not enough. You're just not. We happily let ourselves down on everything all of the time, because we're just used to letting ourselves down. There's so many things that we want to do and don't do. So that's not enough. So it's really difficult for me because I haven't been that person. So I don't know, because I wasn't able to do that when I didn't have kids. But I think finding something, like maybe a goal to work towards with fitness, or...
Do you think in a way it's like find another distraction?
It has to be, yeah. You have to have a reason strong enough that is more powerful than going for the drink. And I don't know what that is for everyone. Yeah. But so one of the biggest things that changed for me was I realised...
Maybe find something else that takes up your time.
Yeah, 100%. You have to do that. And I touched on that.
Or like you say, find something else that's going to give you a gain.
Yeah. I think there's got to be some metric that you're working on. So for me, it was the relationship and the kids. Without that, it would all fall to pieces. So you have to have a strong enough reason. And I think kids is probably the biggest one. But it's not enough. It isn't enough just to have kids and stop. There has to be a few things.
And like for you guys that are watching or listening, the podcasts that we're currently doing have two different scenarios with more coming. One of them is TradeGains, which obviously criteria-wise is a tradesperson thing, obviously, which is what you originated with. And the second one is personal gains, right? And hearing this, it literally aligns with everything that Personal Gains, the podcast, want. And that's basically to get the best out of people will get the best out of themselves. And I think to I suppose elaborate more on it, is what you're putting across is to help people, but at the same time you're not bothered if people do drink. It's up to them. No. But if people do want to stop drinking, you're giving them the advice or the plan that helped you, so they can kind of maybe follow in your footsteps, right? Next question, if that's all right. How do you support a family member or a friend who may be struggling?
Do they want to stop? Firstly, that would be my first sort of comeback question, because it's very difficult. But I've tried, and like I say, I say I don't preach. I do preach, just not to random people. Like there's people in my life that I think do need to stop or do need to just have a look at it, and you just try and sort of inspire them from the side, and then if any sort of questions come up from them, then I just try and answer them. But you can't be pushy. But I think the person has to want to stop. And I don't think there's any other way to do that than make them see it themselves. Because
they say you can't bring a horse to water, right?
Yeah, lead. But yeah.
You know what it is?
Yeah, it's lead. I think so, is that? I couldn't lead a horse anyway, to be fair. They have to want to stop. You can't force somebody to stop. And the only way you can... For me, I did this kind of on my own, but through podcasts. And it's weird. It's things like this, which is why I want to do it. I heard somebody that I respected and looked up to on the podcast talk about it, the fact that they'd done it. And I was like, oh, and then they're still the same person that they was, but they just don't drink. So I was like, oh, that's an actual possibility. You can do that. So it's hard because you need to just sort of, I don't know how you would do it, but if they want to stop, then the best way to support it for me, like to go onto the other side of that, say the person does want to stop, then it's just let them do what they want to do. So for me, my partner was very understanding. So I just did random stuff. Like I flew to Marbella for the day just to go to an event and go for a walk. And she just let me do it.
What event did you go to?
It's like a social media event. I'm part of a course that I'm still part of now, actually. But at the time, I said to her, this is what I need to be doing right now. And she let me do it. Weird things happen when you stop drinking. You just get all this energy and you want to do weird stuff and put yourself in situations. And you just have to be on board with that, because if you start stopping somebody, say that they're doing something, I don't know, it could be even the gym. Say you haven't got a lot of money and someone stops drinking and they want to go and get an expensive gym membership. you just got to let them do it, because if that's what they're trying to do to stop themselves drinking, and then you get the ump with something like that and put more obstacles in the way, then it's just gonna, I think it will drive them back to it. But it's very hard to support somebody that doesn't need the support. So I think ultimately, like, I don't know, it's difficult. It's difficult to do it, because I obviously needed the support from my partner. I didn't need it from my friends.
You needed a bit of freedom as well with your new stuff.
Yeah. So if it's a close family member, I just think you just got to, whatever it is, or maybe like don't drink in front of them. Like that's another one. For me, it didn't bother me. But for other people, I know people that have tried to stop drinking, but they can't because their partner's still drinking or their friends are still not inviting them to places unless they're drinking. So if you really want to support somebody, then maybe try it with them.
That's hard, isn't it? If you don't get invited to something.
Yeah. And that happened to me.
Really? That's hard, man.
Because people think that you're going to be boring. And I probably was boring at the time.
Do you think it's more the fact that they feel weird?
Maybe. Some
or
people.
You feel weird?
What I've found is that most of the people that judge me for the thing are the people that bring it up. So I don't go into a pub and be like, oh, I'm not drinking. But the questions I always get off of people is, why ain't you drinking? And the only people that notice it are then the people that once they start having the drink, like 3 or 4 hours later, are then sitting next to you asking loads of questions about it. I don't know why you're kicking the table when I was in the zone.
I got cramp there. I got cramp.
They are the sort.
Kind of like I was kicking you to stop talking about it. Sorry. That's, do you know what that is? That's age, man. I played football last Sunday and I'm still aching.
Just randomly going. But yeah, so it's usually the people that are judging themselves. It's usually projecting on themselves, right? So it's something that they either interested in doing or wish they could do. So I don't know what the original question was now because you put me off.
I do that a lot, mate. The original question was, let's revert back to...
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's...
Thank you, the man in the audience.
Thank you. Yeah, there was a lot of times I didn't get invited for things because, I think people thought I was going to be boring because I'm not drinking, which I probably was at the time because...
Okay, question.
Are you going to say sorry for interrupting?
Yes. We got rid of sorry. Sorry seems to be the hardest words. What do I do to make... No, joking. Right, so do you think, though, Daryl on one or Daryl off one, are you boring or more funny, either or?
So it took me a while to get back to a personality, I think, because that was my personality. And it was really weird because at the time, I thought that that's what people wanted me to be. Like, I wanted to be that person in the pub that was making everyone laugh or doing stupid things or being the big character. And I thought that everybody liked that. And I suppose that some people did. But now I don't drink. A lot of my friends that I still talk to have said to me, you're so much better now. Like, I thought you was a dickhead before. And they're still friends with you, but there's a lot of things that I did that they didn't agree with. And I didn't know that until afterwards. But I have found now that I've had to develop a new person, not a new personality,
You've reinvented
but
yourself.
to come back out with confidence and stuff, which is why I'm now doing what I'm doing, because that confidence wasn't there before.
Yeah. Really nice to hear, man. So going on to your comedy stuff, right? Which is like your new journey-ish, right? What, you 35,
34.
Not years of age,
sorry.
shows.
I thought he was being rude. No, 31 shows.
So did you ever do comedy when you were drinking?
No.
Oh, that's
I try to
mad,
make
innit?
people laugh. I've always been somebody that's like to have a laugh when I'm drinking, but I think most people are. But yeah, it just comes down to just having a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of focus and wanting to. So I had to develop a new confidence to go into environments where people were drinking and I was comfortable enough to say, no, I don't drink. And that was something I haven't touched on, actually. I'm going to do that now. Is I changed the language of the way I was talking. It's not I'm not drinking, it's I don't drink. And that for me was another sort of pivotal moment, because if you say to somebody I'm not drinking today, they'll try and convince you. If you say to someone I don't drink, that's it. There's no...
Shut it down.
Yeah, there's no thing. And another little thing that I used to do, I actually learned this off one of the mentors I had when I was trying to stop. He said, when people ask you why, if you say, I really struggle with my mental health and drinking makes it worse, shuts the conversation down straight away. Nobody gets into that conversation. If you try and say, oh, I've had a bit of a bad week, I'm trying to stop, or anything like that, people are always trying to egg you on. As soon as you say, no, I really struggled with it before, like I'm just trying to improve my mental health and I don't drink, and then it just shuts the conversation down.
I sent you this before, but I'm going to start doing networking, right? And get people that go-getters out there that want to do well, want to upskill, level up, and on the farm in the summer, mate, when the sun's shining, gonna definitely do some podcasts outside with you, mate. It'll be good.
Sounds good, man.
Sun will be shining, blue skies, mate. Yeah, hearing the birds tweet and stuff. But right, so Daryl, what's changed since you've become sober?
So me, for a start, like my whole personality has changed, because I used to be somebody that was either down or up, because I was always either hungover, full of regret and fear and anxiety, or out and having the time of my life. And I see somebody talk about this before, but I've now sort of just leveled somewhere in the middle. So I've never...
That's called equilibrium.
Yeah, equilibrium.
That's the best place to be, man.
But it's cool, because I used to just be like really high up and having fun, or just really at the bottom. And now I'm just sort of like somewhere in the middle. And for me, that just means I'm always like managed my emotional state, because I just know that when I wake up tomorrow, I'm not going to be hungover. I'm not going to be excited to go out, because I am excited for stuff, but I'm not going to be like, I used to get into like a hysteria of like just nothing else mattered. I'm not ready to go to the pub. Like, I'll drop the kids wherever they have to go. Like, don't care if anyone's got the ump. I don't care about money. And I don't have that now, because it's just, I'm always ready to be doing what I need to be doing. And I know just where I'm going to be at all the time. So it's very easy to manage your emotional state if you know what your base point is. So for me, that was one of the things that changed. And then the other thing is I had to develop a new confidence, because the drink had gone and I got all my confidence from drinking. So I had to create that. And then what happened is I created that to get myself back into society. And then the confidence just took, I was like, oh, well, I can actually do that. I can be that person without the drink. Like, I am that person. So then I started doing other things like podcasts and social media videos and trying to be a comedian. And all of that has spiraled off the fact that I've got more energy, more time, and more, not ambition, because I always had ambition, but more ability to actually pursue something, and more confidence in myself.
Do you think you unlocked a new version of yourself?
Yeah, and everyone says that, and I think it's a really melty, weird thing to say, but I definitely did, because I think like I was always in there. That voice was always in there, but it was just overshadowed by wanting to go out. And I think that stopped it a lot. And now that's come out, it's like there was something stopping it, because every time I was getting to a point in life where things are going well, I was going out, having a drink, taking drugs, going back down again. And I think now that that's gone, I've just sort of explored down and like taken a new turn maybe, and just gone with that. And then the more I've gone down it, the more confident I've got.
Where were you when you decided, do you know what, I'm going to become a stand-up comedian?
Where was I in state of mind, or where was I in the world?
Do you remember where you were standing? Do you remember what happened?
I remember exactly how it happened, because I reached out to somebody that followed me on social media that is a comedian, and said to her, I am really enjoying the creative side of making reels, and comedy is something that I'm probably going to look into doing. Where do I start? How do I go about getting a longer series of these videos, or where do I go? Basically, that's what I said to her. How do I get into TV or radio or media? How do I do that? And she answered me, which was strange, because she said, I don't want to go into who it is and not name dropping and stuff like that, but she's a big comedian. And she answered me, and what she said to me is, be a stand-up comedian. That's what you need to do. If you can't go onto a stage and talk in front of people, you're never going to be able to do anything in that industry, because that is where you get all your confidence from. That's where you get all your creativeness. And she said, that's where a lot of people start. So do that. And I was like, I've asked her the questions. She's responded to the questions. She's told me an answer. So I was like, I have to go and do that. That's now what I have to go and try and do, because otherwise, what's the point of me asking for advice and someone's given it to me, who I respect as well, who's done it, who's doing it. So I was like, right, that's what I'm going to do. So
how did you go about getting your first gig?
It just went on. I Googled, I Googled, open mic, because I didn't even know what an open mic night was. Yeah. So that's what she said to me, go and do an open mic night. It's a 5-minute set and see how you get on. And that's what I did. And then my other side of always wanted to be fully involved in something took over, and I went into podcasts, books, YouTube videos, watching other stand-up comedians, going to events, because that's what happens with me. Once I go into something, I just dive into it fully. So that's what I did. I did the first one. I hated it. Didn't want to do it. Come off the stage, and then about an hour later, I was like, oh no, like, I think I enjoyed that, so I'm going to keep trying. So you
doubted yourself and then conquered your doubts.
Just done it anyway, basically. And that's
but when you came off of there, look, what I'm saying is you said you hated it, right? Yeah. So then you were doubting yourself. But then an hour later, you backed yourself.
And now, every time I come off that stage, I want to get back up on it and just go again, because it's another...
But that's learning, isn't it?
Yeah. It's another way of improving. So every time I go up there, I come off and I'm like, oh, I did that wrong, or I always record them. So I watch them back and I could have said this better. I could have done this. And I just want to learn and grow. And right now, that's what I'm focused on. Yeah, I have to record them because you never know what you said. I couldn't tell you what I said 20 minutes ago. Yeah. And sometimes you'll say something that's really good and works well. And I want to take that and do it again. So
yeah, I suppose in a way then you're probably creating your own material.
But I was scared. When she said it, I thought, you're being ridiculous. You can't just do that. And then it turns out you can just do that. I was really scared to do it.
So from the timeline from you messaging someone that you looked up to then you making a plan and then executing the plan, how long are we talking from?
3 days, I think.
Wow.
From messaging. She responded straight away, which blew my mind.
And then how many days until you got your gig?
I literally booked it there and then.
That's crazy.
I booked one. But I think I slept on it probably, but I got the advice. She started all this for me. I still talk to her now and she helps me loads with stuff. But she started the thing of, I said, you can't just do that. And she said, no, you absolutely can. That's how you do it. Everybody does that. That's what you have to do.
Has she come to see you yet?
No. But
You invited her?
No, of course I haven't. I've only just started. I've been to see her, though, and she sorted him out with some tickets and I met her afterwards. We had a chat and things.
Nice, man.
But yeah, so...
Fair play to her, man.
Oh, honestly, that's why I always try and respond to messages.
Yeah.
Because you don't realise that you can actually inspire somebody to do it. Like I never think of myself as somebody that's inspiring, but you are, because if people are watching, like I've got a lot of followers now and people are watching it, and just me walking around and bumping into people and talking to people, you never realise you might have no effect on somebody, but you might, and I think you have to accept it because it feels really hard to go, oh, I'm inspiring people. It feels like you're trying to be like the big I am, or you think you're something that you're not. But unfortunately, when you are making videos on social media, people are looking at you and are thinking that you're doing this. And if that's what helps people, then that's why I want to do it. And because I've had people do that for me, like help me with stopping drinking, help me get into comedy, I'm trying to pay that back.
Yeah. No, listen, I hate negativity, right? I like positivity is the only thing I can really move on, and it definitely spreads a lot further being positive than being negative, you know? So I think like, good for you for doing what you're doing, and good for that lady for like pushing you in the right direction.
Like I say, when she responded and gave me the advice, and this is what I was saying earlier, if I give people advice and they don't take it, it's kind of annoying, especially if they ask again. Oh, I've already given you the advice, you haven't done it. And that bothers me. So when somebody gives me advice, if I ask you something now, and because I value your opinion, and you tell me something and I don't listen to that, what is the point of me asking you? So as soon as she said what she said, spoke to her about it, spoke to my partner about it, because I go off on weird little tangents to do stuff, and I just said to her, this is what I really want to do, and she was probably against it at the time and just said, because I just always try and do something, I'm always looking for something to do, but I told her this is what I wanted to do, booked one a week later I think, when I'd done it, told the person that I'd done it, and she was shocked that I actually went and done it straight away, and then gave me more advice, and then since then like, she's always on hand, and she's very responsive as well.
You're playing footsie with me under the table.
Is that you? Sorry, I thought it was it.
So going on from that, right, there's a question here that we're going to get onto, but before we do that, talking about your relationship with your partner, right, this might be a silly question, but has she come to watch you on stage?
No.
So it's not so much of a silly question.
No,
then.
it's not.
Would that put you off, do you think?
No, it wouldn't put me off, but she doesn't like it. It's the same with the social media videos. She wouldn't film any of them. Took her a while to... She's just not that person. She doesn't want anything to do with it, and that's fine. That's just who she is. But she hasn't come to watch me, and that's not because she's not supportive, because she is supportive. It's just...
Does she watch your videos back?
I think so. I think she watches a lot of them just to help me out. I think she doesn't give me advice or anything like that. That's just not who she is. Yeah. And it would make her uncomfortable watching me be uncomfortable. Even though...
Because she would know when you're nervous, or, you know what I mean?
She just hasn't. And I haven't asked her either. I haven't pushed it, because she would if I wanted her to. But it's just not something that she do. And I say it's not because she's not supportive, because she's supportive.
But she supports you in a different way.
Well, she has to be incredibly supportive for me to be able to go out 2 to 3 nights a week to do it, right? We're not getting paid for it. So she supports...
being the big word.
Yeah, yet being the massive word. But yeah, she's supportive in that way. So it's just one of those things.
So going back then, right, for when you did... pivot your life, right? And that pivotal moment, how did it affect your relationship, and how did you rebuild the trust in the relationship?
So it affected it massive. So I'd been told a lot of times by her that this is your last chance. Like,
really?
We are going to be done if you carry on down this road. Because I was that person when we met, right? I was. So I always was of the opinion, well, this is who I was. What are you talking about? This is who I was when we got together. like, you shouldn't have done that then maybe. That's how I always thought. But I'm forgetting about the fact that there's growth, right? And okay, we was young at the time. She probably wants something more out of life. So that's how I was always seeing it. And she said to me loads of times, but I didn't believe her. And I always just thought, it'll be fine. Like, we'll be fine. And then she'd been to her mum's a few times, and there was just something different about this time. Like, I just thought, because she was pregnant and she was like, I'm not putting a baby through this. I'm not doing this. You can't even come home when you're supposed to come home. And yeah, I just believed her this time. So it did massively affect it. And going to the trust thing, how did I rebuild trust? I don't think I have rebuilt trust, because I am not doing what she doesn't trust me for, if that makes sense. Like, she wouldn't trust me to go out and have a drink. So that's what the trust issue was, right? She didn't want me to go out.
So someone asked you, how did you rebuild trust?
Yeah.
And you're saying you haven't.
I don't think I have. I think she trusts me because she trusts me because I'm not drinking. So is that trust? She knows. So, okay, she trusts me not to drink, maybe. Okay, so you might be able to say that. But would she trust me now to go out for a drink and come home? No. Because that's what her issue was. Her issue was with me going to the pub, drinking, taking drugs and not coming home. So I don't think it's a trust thing. I think I've changed what I'm doing. So she doesn't have to trust me, because there's no trust there. I don't think I would trust me to go to the pub, have a drink, and then not go completely off the rails.
But the trust must be there, because you've basically eradicated the problem.
But she's not trusting me not to have the problem, because I'm not doing it. So say, like, related to cheating, right? If somebody's been cheating because they're texting women on their phone and you then take their phone away, are you trusting them not to do that, or are they not able to do it? Because you're not trusting them. Because if you haven't got a phone to be texting the girls that you're texting, then she knows you're not doing it. But is that trust? Because...
No, but the problem that you faced is all around you, right? So you've somehow developed a new version of yourself to not go anywhere near the problem.
Yeah,
and actually to address the problem and create a solution instead of going.
Yeah, so I think she trusts me not to drink. She does trust that.
I actually think you have rebuilt the trust, but it's good to talk about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think you've rebuilt trust definitely, 10 times over.
Yes, I think she trusts me not to drink. She does, because she wouldn't let me fly out of the country, because I've done it a few times.
Or maybe it's not that she... It's not the trust to drink. Maybe she trusts you to just be the best version of.
Yeah, so she trusts
yourself.
me not to drink. I would go with that. She does trust me not to drink. But I haven't rebuilt the trust of me doing what I was doing, because I'm just not doing it. So I just think there's a different line there, because 1,000,000%, if I rang her now and said, I've just done a podcast with Ryan, we're going to go for a beer afterwards, I'll only have a couple, don't worry about it, she would be worried and there would be no trust. So I haven't rebuilt the trust. I just think I've reframed what she's trusting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but I don't say I totally agree with it, but that's an opinion, right? I think you have, I think, like, obviously if there was a problem in your relationship and, there was a reason behind what the problem was, and you've basically stopped that problem, I think that's a massive trust rebuild.
Yeah, I do get it. But like I say, if I phoned her now and said I'm going for a drink, that would all go. But she trusts me to come here today to not drink. So I just think there's two different things that she's trusting. She's trusting me to be the best person.
Your relationship must be in a
it's good now.
good place, yeah.
That's nice now, yeah. We don't. I can't remember the last time we really argued, and we used to argue a lot. But I'm not doing anything wrong, so what are we going to argue about?
But like you said earlier on, you're being good.
Yeah, exactly.
With obviously you coming in, I think it's been really nice that you've taken the time out of your busy schedule to answer questions that people have asked you. And obviously what you've done now is because you put out questions to someone and they responded to you and they set you on a journey that you've explored and enjoyed. So I mean, it's really good that you've done that. Are you gigging tonight?
I've got a gig tonight and a gig tomorrow, yeah. So plenty to get on with. But no, I appreciate you giving me the platform to do it.
No, mate, we'll do it more often. Where's your gig this evening?
I don't actually know. I don't know. NW3, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's called.
I was in northwest London yesterday. It's quite far to get to, isn't it?
There's quite a lot of them in like NW5, NW3, NW1, like Camden, sort of Kentish Town area.
So tonight, what day is today? Wednesday, right?
Wednesday.
So Wednesday must be quite a busy gig, is it?
Wednesdays and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are the nights really. So I try and do Wednesday and I've got one tomorrow in Greenwich. So yeah, that's good.
Well, mate, listen, keep doing what you're doing. I'm definitely going to follow the movement and support your journey. And I can't wait to come and see you. So you just need to let me know a gig that you're like, this is the one to come to.
This is the one.
Yeah. And I think during the work nights, the school nights are sometimes easier to come and actually support you, So yeah, thanks very much for tuning in, guys, to half trade gains, half personal gains, but most of all, Daryl Robinson's story about where he started, where you are now, and where it is that you're going to, right? So it's good, man. Thank you very much, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Top man.